So Bhagavad-gita, chapter 18, text 54. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochati Nakanchati Samasamvesu Bhutesu Ma Bhaktim Labate Param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Please kindly responsibly repeat. One who is thus transcendentally situated, at once realizes the Supreme. At once realizes the Supreme Brahman. And becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Purport. To the impersonalist, achieving the Brahma Bhuta stage, becoming one with the Supreme, becoming one with the Absolute, is the last word. But for the personalist or pure devotee, one has to go still further to become engaged in pure devotional service. This means that one who is engaged in pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord is already in a state of liberation, called Brahma Bhuta, oneness with the Absolute. Without being one with the Supreme, the Absolute, one cannot render service unto him. In the absolute conception, there is no difference between the served and the servitor. Yet, this distinction is there in a higher spiritual sense. In the material concept of life, when one works for sense gratification, there is misery. But in the absolute world, when one is engaged in pure devotional service, there is no misery. The devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing for which to lament or desire. Since God is full, a living entity who is engaged in God's service in Krishna consciousness becomes also full in himself. He is also like a river cleansed of all dirty water. Because a pure devotee has no thought other than Krishna, he is naturally always joyful. He does not lament for any material loss or aspire for gain, because he is full in the service of the Lord. He has no desire for material enjoyment, because he knows that every living entity is a fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and therefore eternally a servant. He does not see in a material world someone as higher or someone as lower. Higher and lower positions are ephemeral, and a devotee has nothing to do with the ephemeral appearances or disappearances. For him, stone and gold are of equal value. This is the Brahma Bhuta stage, and this stage is attained very easily by the pure devotee. In that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality becomes hellish. The idea of attaining the heavenly kingdom becomes a phantasmagoria, and the senses are like serpents whose poison teeth are broken. As there is no fear of a serpent with broken teeth, there is no fear from the senses when they are automatically controlled. The world is miserable for the materially infected person. But for the devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha, or the spiritual sky. The highest personality in this material universe is no more significant than the ant for a devotee. Such a stage can be achieved by the mercy of the Lord Chaitanya, who preached pure devotional service in this stage. Who preached pure devotional service in this age. Kuma Gyana Timirandasya, Gyana Jana Salakaya, Sakso Militam, Jana Tasmai, Si Goravenam Ha, Suchetaya Manobistam, Stafitam Yinabutan, Swayam Rupam, Kadamayam, Dadata Swa, Kadantikam. Vandisi Krishna Chaitanya, Nityananda Sahodata, Gudadhaya Puspavanto, Cheta Chanda Tamona. Namama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutali, Srimati Bhakti-vedanta Swami Itinamani. Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gaurabhani Picharini, Hindasisa Sunyabhani, Pasati Adisatari. Vancha Kalpataribhyacha, Kripa Sundabhya Evacha, Patitanam, Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavibhyo, Namo Namo. So, you are welcome to 26 Second Avenue. This auspicious day of August 31st, 2019. So we are living in the 21st century. The 21st century is a very advanced era. And therefore, we have so many technological applications to try to keep us happy, to try to keep us equilibrated, to try to create a balance between our miseries and our happy stages of existence. But still, the Shastra, the Bhagavad-gita, is mentioning here that this material world we are always miserable, and that although we are always miserable, there is another stage of existence where someone is just superlatively joyous. There's a difference between being happy and just being joyous, and then even being blissful. So the point is, we want a stage of existence where we can be eternally be happy, not to be bothered by any miseries. But you know what? Material world is just when we take birth in this material world, it's just a guarantee that misery is just part of the bargain. Like, you commit, if even you want to sign, help the cops in prosecution, and you want to get a lesser term of punishment, you still get some punishment, right? You still get something. So when we are in the material world, it's difficult to escape the problems. That's the point. Once you're a criminal, even Jeffrey Epstein with all of his billions. Yeah, man, this is a typical case, with all of his billions, he couldn't really get rid of the miseries. And at some point in time, he took his own life. He felt this is too much. So sometimes people say, okay, the suffering is just too much for me. Let me just go and rest in peace. Who told you you're going to rest in peace? And we find this great deception of the 21st century. People have left their bodies, people die, and then you find in memorial, such a person, he has this number of grandchildren, he has this number of mansions, he was such a billionaire, he did this, he did that, and now he's rested with the Lord. May his soul rest in peace. How did you know? So this is part of our speculation in the material world. This is called assumption. Assumption in research means something you believe in, but you don't have any substantive statistics or data to back up your belief system. It's an assumption. We assume that the person is going to rest in peace. But is it really true? The Shastra says no. You can rest in peace. You can rest in pieces, but you can rest in peace. So this is the bitter truth, the bitter fruit of having to acquire a material body. But the assertion in this very statement is that there is a platform called Platform of Pure Devotional Service, characterized by no lamentations, no society, no consciety. Two principal characteristics: no lamentations and no material desires. We have a lot of lamentations going on in the material world because we desire something, we acquire it, and then we disacquire it to, not to be too harsh. So we work so hard to get something, or just forget about the material, the physical of moving fixed assets or moving assets. Let's talk about material assets, human assets. Okay, you've been looking, you had so much money, and you're looking for a spouse. You get one attractive spouse, whether you're male or female, we don't know, but you got one. So here now you're happy, and then the next 6 months or next 1 year or next couple of years, he or she comes to say, hey, I'm fed up with this relationship. I'm quitting. You say, what? What happened? No, I'm just, I need a space. I need to go and, relax. What we desire so much, what we hankered so much, what we look for so much, we endeavored for this so much, we put in all of our energies. And when we got it, we were so excited. This is called dualities. We have something we're excited about, we don't have it, we become morose, become depressed. We don't achieve it. When we achieve our goal, we become happy. So, this is the nature of the material world. Material world is such that the waves of the illusory energy are bound to give us some miseries. And these miseries sometimes could be so painful, and sometimes we can't even tolerate it. But then the assurance is that there is another platform. It's a platform, pure devotional service, a Brahma Bhuta platform, where we serving the Lord and we acquire those qualities of the Lord because we are one with the Lord. But one with the Lord means what to us? And one could say there are two approaches to that very concept or that conceptualization. One may say, well, I one with the Lord, like Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, the impersonalists, when they say they are one with the Lord, means that they actually merge into the effulgence of the Lord. And that for a devotee is a spiritual suicide, because there is no activities. And so a devotee does not even desire that type of spiritual suicide. Although it is a type of liberation, a type of spiritual or transcendental attainment, but the devotee does not desire that. And the oneness here is referring to the principle that Lord Chaitanya, like Prabhupada mentions in the last sentence of the purport, what Lord Chaitanya taught. And that is the concept of achintya beda beda tattva. We're one with the Lord in quality, spiritually speaking. We are one with the Lord because we are part and parcels of the Lord. Krishna specifically mentions in the earliest parts of the Gita, Mama Evam So Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, that everyone is his part and parcels, to paraphrase it. And so, what are the qualities of Lord Krishna? Sat, Chit, Ananda. Eternity, bliss, and knowledge. So we are also blissful, we are also knowledgeable, we are also eternal. But we do have limitations in terms of quantity. It's like the ocean water. You have a gallon of ocean water. It contains, two hydrogen atoms and oxygen, H2O. But the 1 gallon of water from the ocean has all the same qualities of the ocean water. Ocean water is unlimited. You have in your house just 1 gallon. So yes, the 1 gallon of water you have is, it has oneness with the ocean water in terms of quality. But quantitatively, it is different from the ocean. In the same way, we are also qualitatively one with the Supreme, because we are all spiritual sparks. We are eternal. In our original state, we are eternal. That means the soul, the pure soul, is eternal. It's full of bliss and full of knowledge, just like the Lord. But we have limitations. We are limited to this body. And so, because we are limited by this body tabernacle, we tend to be a little bit off the point of the acquisition in quantity in reference to the quality, in reference to the Lord. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya mentions that the absolute oneness and difference of the living entity with the Lord is what prevails in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. Because if we look at the living entity critically, we'll find that, yes, the living entity has the qualities of the Lord, spiritually speaking, but quantitatively, we are different. The Lord is compared to the ocean water, whereas we are just like, a small fragment of that ocean water. And so, the point remains that with that understanding, if we engage our sensory modalities, our mind, our senses, in the service of the Lord, the mind and the senses which are presently contaminated will become purified. Not cooled, will become purified. It's like if you have if you go to your kitchen, turn on the stove. If you believe that you have blood, water, bones, etc. in your body, or if you don't believe, or you believe otherwise, that your body is just made up of iron, and you put your finger on the stove, on the flame, you want to test it, you'll be burnt. Whether you believe it or not, whether you believe that you'll be burnt or not, you'll be burnt. And so in that circumstance, it means, that's why we use the word would. You will be burnt. You may be burnt or you can be burnt means you're not really sure. So the idea is that if we engage in this devotional service, these senses will become purified. It's imperative. It's something that we can't avoid it. It's just like you put your hand into the fire will burn you. So devotional service unto the Lord is also like The Lord is not different from the Lord, because the Lord is all pure, and the devotional service to Him is also all pure. When we engage in devotional service, we become purified. And then we get to the stage where we become so purified that we begin to engage in perfect, uninterrupted, unmotivated devotional service. Our desires, our initial material desires, become burnt to ashes. Like the case of Dhruva. No, Dhruva, when he started his meditation, when he started his worship of the Lord, he was full of material desires. He wanted to have a kingdom that was greater than that of his even his grandfather. So when he started his meditation, and then the Lord appeared to him, he had the darshan of the Lord. His purity had awakened his natural senses. And when the Lord asked him, what do you want? What can I do for you? What boon do you want from me? He said, I don't want anything. I was looking for broken bottles. Earlier, I was looking for broken bottles. It means he was wanting a kingdom greater than that of his father. Why? What's the reason for him looking for a kingdom greater than that of his father? Who can remind us? Yes?
Because he wasn't allowed to sit on his father's
laps. Yeah. He was emotionally abused. In a modern language, he was emotionally abused by his stepmother. He sat on his father's lap. His father, not his stepfather, his father. And the woman said, hey, get down there. His stepmother said, hey, get down there. So that was a little kid of 5-6 years old. But, he took it very seriously. He took that as an insult. And he said, all right, an insult. He didn't say, well, my stepmother insulted me, let me go kill myself. All right, I will work so hard to show this woman that, yes, this is me, Dhruva. So he decided to perform the austerity. In fact, when he was even going to perform the austerity, he was dissuaded by even Lord Brahma. By Narada. And he would budge. Imagine when you want to do something and a saintly person comes to tell you, hey, don't do it, you're too small to do it. He said, give me a chance. So he was so determined. He was so focused. He had resolute determination. One-pointed determination. And therefore he attained the Lord. So when the Lord appeared to him, how could he have attained the Lord? From purified senses. Purified devotional activities. And what was the sign that he was purified? When the Lord appeared to him and asked him, what boon do you want from him? The Lord knew exactly what he wanted earlier. But he asked him, now, what boon do you want from me, my dear boy? He said, excuse me, sir, I don't want anything from you. I was looking for some broken bottles. So, this is a platform of Brahma Bhut. That's a typical example. Performing devotional service without any more, influx of unwanted things, unwanted desires. And at that time, the devotee does not experience any lamentation, because he sees whatever that transpires as Krishna's mercy. It's very difficult for us to, if we don't get to that stage, we should not pretend otherwise. And I keep warning people that don't try to promote yourself to the platform of Mother Kunti to ask Krishna for miseries. Because if the miseries come, we're not on that platform, and when the miseries come, we may act otherwise. So we should go according to our level and be prayerful. perform the devotional service at the pace that we are able to cope with. And then, when we get on with this regulated devotional service, we can get to that platform where we can perform devotional service automatically. In other words, there is the sadhaka stage before we get to the, to the next stage. And then, eventually we get to that Brahma Bhuta stage, that pure devotional stage. And it just takes some guidance. It takes some guidance. And it takes some premeditated efforts. Dhruva, look at his case. He had some premeditated effort. He didn't just sit back to say, well, okay, I have a problem. I think the Lord should just help me to solve the problem. No, he made some efforts. He advanced some efforts. And he was very serious. And therefore, he attracted the mercy of the Lord. For us to attract the mercy of the Lord, we need to be a little serious also, so that we can, easily purify our senses and then perform the devotional service in a way that is appealing to the Lord. Bhaktisiddhanta will say, we should work so hard that the Lord sees us. We should not demand to see the Lord. And therefore, it is important for us to understand that this stage of Brahma Bhuta platform is something practical. People have attained it, and we can also attain it if we follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. Are there some comments, some questions on this point? Yes.
You gave the example of Dhruva.
Uh-huh.
So he came to the Brahma Bhuta platform.
Uh-huh.
When he got a little older and he had to take charge of the kingdom,
Uh-huh.
he wasn't always joyful.
No.
He, in fact, not only, so you can say when he had to fight the Yakshas, so that's okay because his brother was killed, he had to, punish them. But he got out of hand. He didn't just punish him, he got so angry he was going to wipe out the whole race until Swayam Bhuvamanu came and calmed them down. So I was going to also say, we had the example of Prabhupada, and there were times when he was in anxiety, he was angry. So how do we understand? We're hearing the Brahma Bhuta platform, you're always joyful, but then we see that, hey, they don't look like they're joyful.
Yeah. That is, everyone has to execute your duties. Service. Our process is that of service. To execute service, sometimes you may brush on some people's feet. Sometimes it could be so-called perceived enemies or unperceived enemies, or people who may perceive you to be enemies. But I'll take the example of Arjuna. Arjuna was hesitant to execute his duties because he was super conscious of the inflictions that was going to occur when he performs those duties. Now, initial stage, Arjuna was acting based on his caprices, on his whims. He wanted to protect his self-image. But devotional service, Brahma Bhuta stage, is about you selling yourself to the Lord. So, if the Lord wants you to kill someone, why not? So Krishna made it clear to him that, hey, Arjuna, look, you're trying to dodge this duty, but these people are already been killed. Either you do it and get the credit, or someone else may do it anyway. The people are already dead. Now, another point here is that Krishna was very persuasive. Now, sometimes we quote the scriptures and we want to force that idea on somebody. We, in some cases, we lack the skill of persuasion. We lack the skill to be able to convince someone by logic, argument, and shastra, substantiation, that this thing is good for you. And so, if that is lacking, and I've seen that has caused some major frictions in some families. I know of a case of somebody who told me He wanted to marry one girl, and then his father told him, don't marry this girl. He went ahead to marry the girl anyway. But, you know, after some, almost like 1.5 decades, they are at a crossroad. They already have kids. They are at a crossroad, not about to divorce. So I was asking him, why did you not listen to your father? He said, marriage. Daddy didn't give me any reason. No, he was not able to persuade the son. Maybe he has a, you know, some type of, some intuition. Intuition alone is not enough. You have to be persuasive. You have to, even your child, you have to convince your child why you don't want them to do a particular thing. I'll give you a gross example. I remember some years ago, I was at upstate New York for a women's conference. And then after the conference, one of these professors, she was the head of social sciences at New York University at that time, one Caucasian, one middle-class lady in her 30s. And so she was interested in my presentation, and she came to me, and with discussion, she was asking some things, and then immediately she got to understand that I'm a monk. So, you know, she brought up all of the stuff that is happening in the family. And one of the things she brought up was that, you know, she had 2 kids at that time. The older girl was 17, the younger one was, I think, 15 or so. And she is a doctor in psychology. And so she said she had all of the, you know, modern facilities in the house, CNN, everything. But she said, no one watches TV in her house. She's a Jewish lady, a Jewish profession. I was shocked. She said, that she sets down programs, specific programs for everyone in the family, her husband with the kids, with her. All of them will watch. But no one, individual rooms, no TVs in individual rooms. The idea was not to expose our children to any type of danger from, you know, from the tubes. But she was able to convince her kids based on logic, substantiation, arguments, why she doesn't want them to be watching movies anyhow they will want. So when Krishna brought up the issue of fighting, Krishna persuaded Arjuna to fight with logic, substantiation, and arguments. And when Arjuna understood what he needed to do, he took it up. Now Arjuna wiped out, by the help of, you know, the support of the phalanxes behind him, which were basically, you know, Krishna's special mercy. He also did some devastation. But the point is that is a specific duty. It's a duty that he had to perform. Even for Prabhupada, he had to perform some specific duty, like you mentioned. That's a striking example. It doesn't mean that if someone is a pure devotee that, you know, they will not be exposed to some type of challenges. No. But then the point is that they don't get bothered by those challenges. This is the point. First, we have to understand that the point of no lamentation, no desires brings us a joyful, or invokes a joyful position, a joyful platform. Because you know, whatever you do is not for your own self-aggrandizement. It's not for your own pleasure. It may sound a little bit too great or too big, but it is difficult for someone to do things for the sake of another person. And that is the position of the pure devotee. The pure devotees, they do what they need to do for promoting Krishna consciousness, for the purpose of executing the will of the Lord. They are ready to take up even miseries that, ordinarily speaking, they wouldn't want to get into. They are ready to do even so-called sinful activities that ordinarily speaking they wouldn't want to get into. Like the case of Arjuna. Yeah, so depending on what we think we should be doing, it still boils down to the point that we have a duty to be able to perform to satisfy the Lord. And in the process of execution of duties, people may feel that we hurt them, or people may feel that we don't like them, or people may feel that we treated them in a way that they shouldn't be treated. But then the point is, we have to ask ourselves, is it what is ordained by the Lord? Is it what Krishna wants us to do? Is it what the spiritual master wanted us to do? If that is the case, well, you don't have to absorb the reaction. If we are doing it for the pleasure of Lord Krishna or for the spiritual master, that's a different thing. But it's difficult to know whether you are doing it for the pleasure of Lord Krishna or not. If Krishna is not personally before you, speaking to you like he was doing to Arjuna. So how do we know? This what you are proposing to do, or what you are saying, or what you want to do, that is the will of Krishna. That is the will of Krishna. That's why, again, we need some guidance. Lord Krishna mentions in the Gita that vidi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadikshanti te jnanam jnanina tattvadashina. And so the Brahma Bhutta platform doesn't come just from the blues. It doesn't come from the blues. We start from somewhere, and that is rendering service, inquiry from a devotee of the Lord, rendering service to that devotee, making some humble inquiries. Service is so important. We can't say, I am dedicated to this system, I'm dedicated to my country. What's your service? I mean, it's like one of the major things that is expected of a number of the leaders in the country is that when people have served in the military, they're proud of it. This is I serve this. That gives them a one thumb up. They sacrifice their life out of commitment. No one forced them. They voluntarily served the country to protect the sovereignty of the country. And so, when we understand that Krishna is the president of the whole universe, Krishna is the president of the whole universe. And if we are serving Lord Krishna, we have to understand that we are doing a great job. And if we are doing a great job, we just have to be meticulous and what is required. I mean, meticulous in the sense that the very primary things that we need to do right from the beginning, who can tell us, who can share some of that? The very primary things we need to do when we come to this Krishna movement, chanting Krishna's names. Chanting Krishna's names. So if we chant Krishna's names, the senses will become purified. And then, in due course of time, we may have that opportunity to become a perfected soul. And then get to that level of the Brahma Bhutta stage, where something happens in our lives, we don't go on lamenting. If something amazing happens, we don't jump into the sky superlatively excited. I'm excited! Yeah, so it's a nice, thank you for raising this. Yeah, so the platform, this is something we should be thinking about. Don't say, well, that is too high for me. It's not high for, it's not high. If it's high for somebody else and people have achieved it, we should think, why not I? Is this achievable? Yes. We're giving some, typical examples. People have achieved it. It's not something abstract. Yes.
So you just talked about that when you're in that state, still you have to perform the duties. It's difficult to understand what exactly the duties are depending on, based on your guru or someone who is helping you understand, okay, this is your duty, you should perform this.
Sure.
And that makes you or brings you in a state where you can be joyful, understanding that whatever you are doing is for the greater good. Or so with that logic, because if you think about even the bad things that are happening in the world, that all those people like terrorists and everyone, they are also following the same logic that our Lord has inferred a duty upon us. We are joyful, we'll give our lives for it.
Sure.
So how is it different?
How do we differentiate that? Yeah, that's a nice point. Very important, especially this being an age of misinformation. So anyone can claim this is what I'm inspired to do. This is what the Lord wants me to do. I just plant some bombs here and there to kill people, and this is what the Lord wants me to do. But come on, the point is, the Lord wants you to kill people? No. In fact, if you cannot even create an ant, why kill a gigantic human being? We can't even create an ant. And so that logic doesn't really hold for any reasonable person. But yes, we are at a crossroad where people are confused. And some of the ideas are very, very illogical. And not only illogical, but the framework of operations are basically selfish-oriented or a group-oriented. If we want to satisfy just a particular set of groups or a group of people or a team without understanding the greater goal, what is the bigger picture behind this action? Is it something that is going to bring peace to the world? If it is something that is not going to bring peace to the world, or is it something that contravenes the Constitution or the laws of the nation? Again, we are governed by principles, by laws. And so, for instance, okay, in the United States, we have the Constitution. We have road traffic edicts. We have criminal codes. And so whatever we're doing has to be governed by the principles. At least the primary thing we have to know, these things have to be governed by principles. And so if we want to do something and then we get inspired, okay, I'll give maybe this is a very gross example. I just came from Richmond, and my friend who picked me up from the airport, he was telling me a story. One guy, he's doing a PhD, and he newly got married. And then he's full-time, he's on his first year, remains 2 more years. His wife is working very hard. His wife is the one maintaining the family now. So again, what I'm inspired to do, is it something for the general good? So the wife is working very hard. The wife is thinking he's gone to school to do his PhD. But you know what? The next moment, the wife was called on the phone. Your husband is behind the bars. Behind the bars. For what? She asked. You come, we'll tell you. So she went there. And you know what the guy did? The wife was thinking he's in school. He's left all the way Virginia to come to Maryland for sex. And now, some cops, they're looking for jobs. And there are several ways to catch people who are really deviant. And so this guy, he was chatting with a young girl, 17 years old girl in quote, on a website. They arranged for a meeting. And then he went there. and he got apprehended by the cops. So the question is, was what he intended to do, was it not, forget about the general good, for his immediate family good? So there are several ways we can really just, analyze the situation and see whether this is based on selfish motivation, geared or triggered by their propensity to cheat others, or geared by, violent tendencies, or whatever. And so, if we are doing something that is not in conformity with even the laws of the land, we should know that this is improper. And then we will get apprehended. And then we'll say, oh, but I didn't do anything. So he said, I didn't do anything. Oh, what took you from Virginia, where you told your wife you're going to college, you're going for your research, to Maryland, to Baltimore, for a sexual encounter with an underage girl? So if we take that even to the idea of people doing horrible things. Of course, these days you can do any horrible thing, and then you say, you can claim that, mentally insane. And it's not just about grown-up people. Even teenagers, 2 12-year-old girls have been put on the bus or behind bars in psychiatric hospitals for 40 years. You know what they did? Another 12-year-old girl, their friend, you had 3, and people should hear this. 3 friends, 12 years old, they lured their friend into some nearby, nearby woods. They said they want to go and play hide and seek games. They went with a friend, not knowing the 2 of them had conspired to kill this girl, to kill the 3rd friend. 12 years old. They went there, and then they started stabbing the girl. So they thought the girl was already dead. They left. She was bleeding all over the place. She was falling down. She was bleeding all over the place. So she left. They left. But somehow or the other, just a slight escape route. The girl, somehow or the other, regained consciousness, crawled out to the roadside, and signaled for help. Someone came by, called 911. The cops came, took her away. That's how they got her friends rounded up. So one can say, well, I was inspired to do this. This is on a gross, very much on a gross level, gross social level, but we can take this also higher to other dimensions where we think, well, I am of this group and you are not of this group, so we will kill you. And even in the political arena, look, a gentleman, the POTUS was having some campaign somewhere, and then some protesters came up, and another guy was driving past in his car. He stopped, highlighted from the car, and then just came to one of these elderly guys who was protesting and punched him in the face. Keep, an elderly person, keep, break his glasses and throw him down. The cops came, rounded him up, and all of them involved, they're white guys. Rounded him up and took him up. Later, I was following up that story. He's been jailed. What is the use of this? When we are doing something and we can't really justify it based on the law, that is what Prabhupada will say, whimsical. Because no one is above the laws. Especially in this country, nobody is above the laws. And therefore, it is important for us to understand that just by rationalizing our deviation, rationalizing what we want to do, doesn't really protect us from getting reactions. And so for people to say, our group or the in-groups and out-groups fighting that goes on, if it is rational, we have to check. We have to check with the laws whether this is something authorized, because even the people that we're thinking we could actually act for, we got put to jail when we go contrary to the law. So what is that? So again, it boils down to the point that we're not very rational in most cases. We're not very rational, because if people understand that everyone is born equally, and while we are not very rational, we lack that value of oneness with the Supreme, understanding that we are one in quality with the Lord. If people understand that everyone on this planet, in this universe, is part of the Krishna family, and we act wisely on that basis, we will not inflict pains on people. We will not go about harming people all in the name of, the banner or a particular type of a tradition, a particular type of organization or whatever. No. Just like we will not want to harm our beloved friend, our beloved brother or sister, our beloved sibling, we will not want to harm them. But this is a principle that Krishna gave in the Gita, why he stipulated categorically that we are his parts and parcels. In other words, we belong to one great family, the Krishna family. That is missing in the world, in the philosophies of the groups, and so we have so much of fragmentations in society, so much of unnecessary violence, killings. I don't know whether it makes some sense to you. Yes. Last question. What's the time now?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, last question.
Okay, last question, yeah.
You mentioned about how we have to honor the laws of the land.
Mm-hmm.
How do we then deal with laws that seem unjust? So, for example,
Yes.
like the detention camps where these children in the United States are being kept in really inhumane conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can we understand when it's okay for us to like that? How can we then justify that accordingly as legal, but we feel like it's unjust? How can we rationalize that?
Yeah.
With the Shastra.
Yeah. You see, we may not justify that with the Shastra, but then, the government enacts a particular law to be able to execute a particular type of mission. So they do something to back up their action. Now, you also can do something to counteract that by following the law, by going through a due process. If you go through and there are people who have volunteered doing that. She's one of them. She works in, in non-profit organizations where they do all of these criminal immigration defense cases. So there are due processes of how to deal with even the things or even the enactments or the policies that are counterproductive to human evolution. There are ways to deal with situations, not by going to carry guns or start shooting people. You understand the point? Yeah. A devotee should be super intelligent, that they use their skills, their spiritual intelligence and their material intelligence, they integrate that to be able to create avenues for problem solving. Life is about problem solving. Yes, any other points? All right, we end here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.